Two schools on the same street, both state funded, both free. Same uniforms, same Ofsted, same look from the pavement. To you, at the gates, they're identical, but one is a maintained school and one is an academy. And that single word changes who funds it, who employs the staff, who's legally in charge, and the part that matters most, who you go to when something goes wrong and the school stops listening. Most parents never find out which kind their school is until they need to escalate. By then, they're knocking on the wrong door. Today, the difference in plain English and why it decides who's actually responsible. Start with the maintained school, what most people picture when they say state school. A maintained school is a state-funded school that gets its money through its local authority, its council. The word maintained is a legal one. Under the law, the council has a statutory duty to maintain the school, which includes covering the costs of running it. So who runs it? Two answers, and they don't overlap. By law, the overall direction of the school is the job of its governing body, a strategic, non-executive board that sets the vision, holds the head teacher to account for the school's performance, and makes sure the money is spent properly. The day-to-day running, the management, the staff, the organisation sits with the head teacher, who is accountable to that governing body. Note the chain there. Head answers to the governing body. Governing body sits inside the council's wider duty to maintain the school. Hold on to that chain, because in an academy it breaks completely. Now the academy. An academy is a state-funded, non-fee paying independent school. Read that again. Independent. Academies are completely independent of local authority control. The council that maintains the school next door has no control over the academy at all. Instead, an academy is run by an academy trust, a not-for-profit charitable company limited by guarantee. And because it sits outside the council, the way the government holds it accountable is a single document, a funding agreement. That's a legally binding contract between the Secretary of State for Education and the Academy Trust. The contract sets the terms of the funding, how the academy must be run, its duties, and the powers the Secretary of State has to step in if it underperforms or mismanages money. The Academies Act 2010 is where this lives in law. Section 1 says an academy is created when the Secretary of State enters into those arrangements with a trust, and Section 1A sets out what an academy school actually is. One more thing worth knowing. Free schools, university technical colleges and studio schools are all, in law, types of academy. Same legal family, different names, money and staff, because who pays you and who employs you quietly decides who answers for you. Funding first. A maintained school is funded by central government, but the money flows through the council, which passes it on using its own local formula. An academy is funded directly by the Department for Education, usually through the Education and Skills Funding Agency, with no council in between. Now staff. And here the maintained side is genuinely fiddly, so stay with me. In a maintained school, who legally employs the staff depends on the exact category of school. The council is the employer in community schools, voluntary controlled schools, community special schools, and maintained nursery schools. But the governing body is the employer in foundation schools, voluntary aided schools, and foundation special schools. The academy side is simpler. The Academy Trust employs every member of staff in the academy. Here's the narrator's plain glue. Not a line of law. The reason this dry list matters is that the employer is the body that answers for how staff behave. So even the word employer is a clue to who's on the hook. This is the heart of it. When a school fails and the system has to step in, the chain of command is completely different. Take a school failing educationally, say an inadequate Ofsted rating. In a maintained school, the local authority has legal powers to intervene. It can issue formal warning notices, suspend the school's delegated budget, or replace the governing body with an interim executive board. In an academy, the local authority has no power to intervene at all. Instead, the DfE's regional directors act directly through the funding agreement. They can issue a termination warning notice, and if the trust can't turn the school around, move the academy to a different trust. Now, financial mismanagement. In a maintained school, the council is responsible for the funds it hands out, overseen by its own finance officers. In an academy, the DfE's Education and Skills Funding Agency is the direct regulator. It can issue a formal notice to improve, and ignoring it is a breach of contract that can see the academy shut or transferred. And complaints, the one you'll actually live. For a maintained school, if local procedures fail, certain matters, like admissions or exclusion appeal panels, can go up to the local government and social care ombudsman, an independent watchdog. For an academy, that watchdog has no jurisdiction over internal academy matters or its appeal panels. Your only route is to the Department for Education. And here's the honest limit, stated as plainly as the power. The DfE cannot overturn the trust's decision, cannot order compensation, and cannot force the academy to discipline staff. It will only check whether the academy followed its own published complaints procedure or acted unlawfully. So the same complaint at two schools on the same street hits two completely different ceilings. Now, the most important thing in this whole episode, and it cuts against everything I've just said. Everything so far has been about who runs the school, but there are two duties where it does not matter one bit whether your child's school is maintained or an academy. First, if a child can't attend school through illness, exclusion, or other reasons, the council has a duty under Section 19 of the Education Act 1996 to secure suitable education for them. Second, the special educational provision in a child's education, health and care plan. The law puts the absolute non-delegable legal duty to secure that provision on the local authority. Non-delegable means the council can't hand the responsibility off, so a council cannot lawfully say, that's the academy's problem, and an academy cannot say, we don't have the funding or the staff as a legal excuse. If the provision isn't delivered, the council must step in and secure it. Here's the narrator's read. Flagged as my framing, the academy or maintained question tells you who runs the building, but for the most vulnerable children, the law quietly keeps the council on the hook, no matter what the sign on the gate says. So, two schools, same street, two rulebooks, maintained, funded through the council, with the council still in the chain when things go wrong. Academy, funded direct, run by a trust, answerable to the DfE through a contract, with the council shut out. Knowing which one you're dealing with is the difference between escalating to someone who can act and shouting at someone who legally can't. And remember the exception that overrides all of it. For EHCP provision and for children who can't attend, the local authority is responsible whatever the school's label. That's the thread this whole channel pulls. When something goes wrong, who is actually responsible? Next time we go inside the board itself. The governors and trustees who are supposed to be the check. If this made the map a little clearer, subscribe, because the people who designed it this confusing are counting on you not understanding it. This isn't legal advice, it's the map. See you next week.